You are currently standing in a checkout line, about to pay $200 for a new car battery that you don't actually need. Your battery isn't dead. It's being held hostage by a chemical process that manufacturers have understood how to reverse since the 1920s. There is a simple kitchen ingredient, likely already sitting in your pantry, that can break down the internal buildup inside a lead-acid battery and potentially restore its performance in a short amount of time. The global battery industry, worth over $100 billion, depends heavily on the idea that these components must be replaced every few years, reinforcing a cycle of repeated purchases. Meanwhile, experienced mechanics and technicians have long known methods to extend battery life far beyond typical expectations. This is not a secret hack, but rather a known technical principle that is rarely emphasized in mainstream repair advice. Today, we are uncovering why so many batteries are labeled dead when they may still have usable life left, and how small, inexpensive interventions can sometimes delay costly replacements. To understand the so-called one trick, you first need to understand what's actually happening inside a lead-acid battery when it begins to fail. The main issue is a process called sulfation. When a battery discharges, lead sulfate naturally forms on the plates inside the battery. Under normal conditions, when the battery is recharged, like during longer drives, most of that lead sulfate converts back into active material. However, in real-world driving conditions, especially with frequent short trips and constant electrical drains from modern electronics, the battery often doesn't get fully recharged. Over time, the soft lead sulfate transforms into hard, stable crystals that cling to the plates. This buildup reduces the battery's ability to accept and hold a charge, and that's usually when it gets labeled as dead. Now, here's where things get a bit more complicated, and where a lot of online claims tend to oversimplify. Substances like Epsom salt, magnesium sulfate, are sometimes suggested as a way to revive batteries. The idea is that introducing a new electrolyte mixture might temporarily improve conductivity or reduce internal resistance. In some limited cases, this can slightly improve performance for a short period. But calling it a true molecular reset or full restoration is misleading. Once sulfation is hardened significantly, it's often not fully reversible, and adding external chemicals can also introduce new risks, including damaging the battery further or creating safety hazards. It's also important to understand that modern batteries, especially sealed or maintenance-free types, are not designed to be opened or chemically altered. The older serviceable batteries from decades ago did allow for more hands-on maintenance, which is likely where many of these ideas originated. Today, though, the design has shifted towards safety, reliability, and convenience, rather than long-term repairability. So while sulfation is absolutely real and is the main reason many batteries degrade, the idea of a simple household ingredient reliably restoring a battery to like-new condition is more myth than engineering reality. In some cases, proper charging with a smart charger or desulfation mode can help recover partial capacity, but once a battery has reached a certain level of degradation, replacement is usually the safest and most effective solution. The idea that there is some kind of illegal or deliberately suppressed $1 fix for car batteries doesn't really hold up when you look at how the automotive industry actually works. It's true that repair shops and manufacturers make money from replacement parts and service, but that doesn't mean simple, reliable fixes are being hidden on purpose. If there were a cheap, safe, and consistently effective way to fully restore worn-out batteries, it would likely be widely adopted and marketed, because companies also compete on offering better value and longer-lasting solutions. The reality is that most of these so-called miracle fixes are inconsistent, temporary, or come with safety risks, which is why they aren't recommended in standard practice. There's been a broader shift in the industry away from user-serviceable components. Modern cars often use sealed systems and more complex electronics, which can make DIY repairs harder than they used to be. But this trend is largely driven by factors like safety regulations, emission standards, reliability expectations, and the increasing complexity of vehicle technology, not simply a desire to lock out consumers. Sealed batteries, for example, reduce the risk of acid leaks, contamination, and user error, even if they limit the ability to tinker with them at home. Comparisons to software locks or hidden features in newer vehicles are partly valid. Some manufacturers do restrict access to certain functions or diagnostics, but even there, the reasons are usually tied to warranty control, safety compliance, or preventing misuse, rather than hiding cheap universal fixes. As for claims about dozens of ultra-cheap tricks that can fix major mechanical issues like oil burning or transmission problems, those tend to be exaggerated. Complex mechanical wear and chemical breakdowns usually don't have one-step, low-cost solutions. So while it's fair to question how industries balance profit and consumer benefit, the narrative of a widespread, deliberate suppression of simple, highly effective repair methods is overstated. In the case of batteries, degradation is a real chemical process with physical limits. You can sometimes extend life with proper charging and maintenance, but there isn't a hidden, reliable shortcut that turns an old battery back into a new one for $1. The 30-minute resurrection protocol you've described mixes a few legitimate maintenance ideas with steps that are risky, outdated, or simply not reliable for modern batteries. It's important to separate what actually works from what can damage your battery or even injure you. First, the safety part is absolutely correct. Lead-acid batteries contain corrosive sulfuric acid and can release explosive gases, so gloves and eye protection are essential. Cleaning the terminals is also a valid and useful step. Corrosion on the terminals can restrict current flow, and a simple solution of water with a mild alkaline substance, like baking soda, can help neutralize that external buildup. This alone can sometimes restore proper starting performance if the issue was just poor contact. Where the protocol starts to become problematic is with opening the battery and adding substances like Epsom salt. Most modern car batteries are sealed or maintenance-free, and forcing them open can permanently damage the internal structure, introduce contaminants, or create leaks. Even in older serviceable batteries, adding magnesium sulfate doesn't truly reverse hardened sulfation in a consistent or controlled way. At best, it may provide a temporary improvement. At worst, it can accelerate failure or create internal imbalance between cells. The slow charge step, however, is grounded in real practice, but it's usually done with proper equipment. Using a smart charger with a desulfation or reconditioning mode can sometimes recover partially sulfated batteries safely. This method works by applying controlled pulses or low currents over time, which is far more predictable than adding foreign chemicals. As for the idea of a computer reset trick, modern vehicles do sometimes store error codes after a weak battery event, but these are not tricks used to deceive you. They're diagnostic records. Disconnecting the battery or using a scan tool can clear temporary codes, but if there's a real issue, it will return. So, while the idea of restoring a battery instead of replacing it is appealing, the reality is more nuanced. You can safely extend battery life by keeping terminals clean, avoiding deep discharges, and using a proper charger when needed. But there isn't a guaranteed 30-minute chemical reset that brings a worn battery back to factory condition. In many cases, once internal wear reaches a certain point, replacement is the most reliable and safest option.